Hello, this is Shan, Chandrasekar, welcoming you to another delightful part of our programming. We have a very distinguished guest in the program here with us today, Dr. Kulshan Gill. She's seeking nomination for the United Conservative Party in Alberta. She was born and raised in India. She's a medical doctor by profession with an outstanding background in the field of medicine and community service. What a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Chandrasekar.
It's such a pleasure to see you, Dr. Gill, and you're looking great.
Thank you.
Well, our congratulations to you. First of all, you have an incredible academic background. So tell me about your, the field of medicine. You're a qualified medical doctor. And in addition to that, you've also got a bachelor's degree in naturopathy.
Yes.
So tell us about it.
So as you were just mentioning, I was born and raised in India, and that's where I did my education as well. And I finished my medical training from the University of Pune. And I worked as a family physician before I came to Canada in the early 2003. Since coming to Canada, I transitioned into alternative medicine. That was my interest, and I ended up doing my bachelor's in naturopathic medicine. And I also was interested in mental health, emotional well-being, and that led me to take some mind-body medicine training as well, in addition.
You've also had a connection with one of the most prestigious universities in the world, the
Yes.
Harvard Medical School.
Yes.
So tell us about it.
So I've always had a very keen interest in mind-body medicine, with the whole mental, emotional connection with the physical aspect of disease. So in that pursuit, I was seeking some training and courses, and I happened to come upon a course that's offered at Harvard Medical School, which is for stress management and relaxation therapy. And that's when I decided to go and pursue it, and it was in mind-body medicine, just what I was looking for. Went on to train with that and offer it to my clients.
You've done an enormous amount of community service while you were in India.
Yes.
It's amazing, I've heard about you, that you worked in the slums in Bombay. Mm-hmm. You worked with HIV patients.
Yes.
And you worked in rural India as well. And you traveled across the country. You were not in just one place. You experienced different provinces in India, and different cultures in India, and different languages in India. So tell us about that experience.
So a lot of this, my traveling and working with diverse communities actually came up with my father's work. I was born and raised into an army family. In fact, 3 generations of my family have served in uniform with the Indian Armed Forces. And with my father's job, we traveled across India. So every so many years, I had the opportunity to get exposure with diverse cultures. As you would know, that India itself is very diverse in its population. So that was very helpful in how I could interact, not only at a personal level, but also professionally when I went on to do my medicine. So with that, I was able to reach out to several communities, both urban and rural, and that's how my work, whether it was with the slums or rural communities with HIV patients and so on and so forth, took me with my travels to far and further places.
It's amazing you mentioned about your family background.
Yes.
I'm somewhat familiar with your family background because your father is an outstanding colonel from the Indian Armed Forces, and your grandfather served, in the Indian Armed Forces as well.
Yes.
And your grandfather was a very regal man, from what I understand, and he followed the traditions to the core.
Absolutely.
And they were perfectionists. Now, growing up in a military family,
Yes.
there's a tremendous amount of discipline that sets in you as children growing up. That discipline got imbibed in you as a child growing up, and also a sense of nationalism and sense of pride about your nation. Tell us about these, and in which way has this helped you in terms of your political career today?
Yes. So very early on, in my growing up years, I think given the fact that I came from the army family, a sense of service was imbibed into me. And it was not only for community, country, but people in general. So taking pride in what you do. And discipline, of course, given that armed forces have that sense of duty and order, I think I imbibed that a lot from how I was raised. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. My dad himself served for 30 years, retired as a colonel. My uncles, my aunt, everybody adorned the uniform. And currently as well, I have one of my cousins serving in active service with the Indian Army. So just growing up with men and women in uniform, I think there was a sense of honor and pride for what you do. How do you contribute back to the society? How do you become a valuable citizen of the society? So as you just mentioned, I think all this has led me to where I am today, and I wish to continue that forward in my capacity here in Canada as well and running for office.
That's fantastic. You know, you also come from a highly illustrious family. Your sister is an outstanding motion picture star.
Yes.
She's of international stature. She's an actor, she's a producer, she's a fabulous writer, and you have such tremendous strength in your family. Your sister has now excelled beyond the Indian film industry because she's not only well known as heroine in Hindi films and Punjabi films,
Yes.
but you know, Kulraj Randhawa is now a well-known name, and she's now venturing into Hollywood films and English films as well. So with that kind of a background, tell me about the interaction between you and your sister, because you pursued the medical career and she pursued the acting career, and you were both at home. So what was Christmas like at home?
I think it was very different for both of us, but again, growing up, it's always about the family, always about the foundation. I think the values that you imbibe growing up, the sense of connectedness and that strength that comes from that unity within the family itself takes you far and wide. So I always like to say, because especially now I get this question a lot of times, you know, for a woman to come forward and, you know, aspire and reach out to certain stages in her life. And I give a prime example that's from my family. So my maternal grandmother, she was 106 years old at her passing.
Wow.
And I still remember that when I turned about 12 or 13, her only question to my father would be every morning that get the girl married, she's of age. And at the time my dad would be, no, she's just a young girl going to school. And I would be more concerned that, you know, I would have to get married and, you know, stop my studies. But when now I reflect back and I think about it, I think she was right in her own perspective at the time, because for herself, I mean, mind you, 100 years itself is a generation, entire generation there. So when she started out, she herself would have probably gotten married at that age, and all she did was raise her family, take care of her children. She never went to school. So for her, it was just important that the woman or the girls move on with their personal duties. Moving forward, my mom came. You know, she went on to get an education, but she married to an army officer. My dad traveled a lot, sometimes on his tenure, you know, leaving my mom and the kids alone. And she single-handedly raised us at the time. But both our parents encouraged, you know, me to move forward in life, get higher education, have a career, and think independently. And then after me, my sister. So just coming back to the point that she's excelling as an artist at the present day, because from generation to generation, women were just encouraged in the family to think highly.
Wonderful.
To think for the future, to think for themselves independently. And now I see my next set of generation of young nieces, it's an entire different generation with much more than probably what I had to offer or what my sister has to offer. They're more productive, they're more tech savvy, and I think they're imbibing an entirely different generation for the future.
We'll continue after these messages.
When you decided to enter politics, because you know you had a very comfortable career, by the way, you were doing
Yes.
extremely well in Canada. Your medical practice was doing quite well, and you were a herbalist as well.
Yes.
But at what point did you decide that you want to go into politics? And when you decided to go into politics, what were the impediments that you faced as a woman?
It's a wonderful question, and thank you for asking me that. I think, so there were several factors in my deciding to choose to run for office. I gave it a long and hard thought, but a lot of it had to do because I live in Alberta, in Edmonton, and I sensed the need for change just even amongst my clients that I had to see. Mind you, I could see the transition of the changing economy affect my work as well. A lot of the clients were coming in with a lot of mental health issues. Big part of it was stress for the downside in economy, stress for losing their jobs. How am I supposed to feed my family? So not necessarily disease was a concern, but all these factors, how they play to affect somebody's health. And that got the ball rolling for me, that how could this improve? How could I do something different for the betterment of the community? And then I did my research. I talked to several politicians, both past and present, had the opportunity to meet some wonderful people. And one very common question that came my way was, there are not many women who run for office or don't choose to run for office. And that got me thinking again, why not? So once I decided that yes, I'm going to pursue it and I'm going to give it a shot, I went all in for it. And here I am today seeking nomination, and I worked hard, and I sure hope that I'm successful in my cause. There were definitely challenges. As I always say, challenges are part of life, whether it's any profession, business, corporate, or politics. So, but definitely it's something women do face more, I would say, but not necessarily, again, confining it to a certain gender. But I think just the mindset or the culture, the society we come from, is a big factor on taking that one step forward.
That's interesting. What attracted you towards the United Conservative Party in Alberta?
I was looking, I did my research, and I think a lot of the conservative values are important, and one primarily being fiscally responsible as well. But here I was at the crossroads at the time where suddenly there was a big shift and change in how politics was happening in Alberta. And at that very time, there was a culmination of two different parties, the PC and the Wild Rose. And I thought this was a great platform and a party because not only for what the policies and what their values were, but also it was starting as a brand new platform. And I think when you start something as a new setup, it gives you more opportunity to grow and develop, bring forth fresh ideas. You're more open to new change versus something that's been established, status quo. So those were some of those few things that really attracted me. And of course, the party leader, Mr. Jason Kenney.
Wow. Well, talk of Mr. Jason Kenney, I have a pleasant surprise for you. I've had the honor and the privilege of knowing Jason for many years. He's been in our studio several times. You know, we were talking about the family values. I want you to listen to what Jason told me. Just listen to this, please. Family reunification has always been a matter of concern, sponsored, family members coming in. You've made some good changes there as well, I believe.
Big change we've made in this area is deals with the parental sponsorship program. We've increased by 60% the number of parents and grandparents that can be sponsored as permanent residents to come and live with their families in Canada. And of course, we've created the very successful and popular new Parental Super Visa that allows parents of Canadian citizens and residents to get a 10-year multiple entry visa, allowing them to stay for up to 2 years, just as long as they get insurance to cover their health and the family's got enough money to take care of mom and dad. And this is so popular in the South Asian community because I've had many parents say to me, thank you. We didn't really want to move here permanently. We don't like the winters. We have other family and friends back home. This allows us to come and be with family when the grandchildren are being born, extended visits. So this is a break for them. It works well for the families, and it's a so far big success.
You see, that's fabulous. Jason always attached importance to family values, and I have to compliment you because you have attached a lot of importance to family values from the way your values were imbibed in you from your childhood. You got married here, your husband is a well-known architect and he's a senior executive in a highly prestigious firm in Alberta, where you're taking care of your in-laws or they're taking care of you, vice versa, both.
Yes.
And you have an excellent, joint family working relationship.
I think family is key, and the foundation is the most important part, whether I always joke to my husband, whether it's building a building or it's building a family, the foundation has to be strong. And that's where our core values and our roots play an important role. So it's very important for me to first and foremost put my family first. And in fact, when I took the decision to run for political office, I actually sat down with my family to first discuss with them that this is what perhaps will be required. What did they think of it? Because I wanted a collective opinion rather than just me going on my own tangent of I, me, myself. And I've been blessed with such a wonderful family, whether it's my parents, my sister, my in-laws, and most importantly, my spouse. He's been such a pillar of strength during this journey with me. And, you know, as you mentioned, it's a give and take two-way street where, you know, we all work together for, you know, bringing it to fruition, whatever we're working towards, whether even it's raising a child, whether it's somebody working, whether it's, you know, building a community. So I think in a larger perspective of things, families work together, families support families, and they build a community and a society.
Alberta is known for a resource-based economy,
Yes.
you know, such as energy, agriculture, technology, and tourism. What are your viewpoints in terms of your key result areas on your platform?
I think the biggest one and the most common and more important thing at this time is the economy, which everybody is talking about, and which, while I went during my campaign process, door-to-door, door-knocking, a lot of people are concerned. I mean, at a layperson's level, you know, a common man, all they're looking is their jobs are secure, you know, they can provide for their families and take care of the children. So I think moving on for the future, yes, our province is known for its oil and gas sector, but I think at the same time we have so much more to offer as well. And it's in a collective effort.
Yeah.
You know, moving on with the different industries, obviously, you know, agriculture, tourism, as you mentioned, you know, I just the other day read that Jasper and Banff alone are a $1 billion industry during the peak seasons for tourism.
Wonderful.
So I think Alberta has a lot to offer. It's always offered so much to all of Canada, and I'm looking at the positive change, and I'm confident that moving forward in the coming years, it's going to bounce back and be where we were before.
Interesting. When you go knock on the door,
Yes.
what is the normal typical questions? What are they asking you?
It's interesting, actually. You know, when I started campaigning, you know, how every contestant, you know, every nomination-seeking person would prepare. We would want to know certain policies. We want to know certain things, what our party stands for. And I used to do the same. But to my surprise, you know, when I went out in the community, door knocking and meeting several community members, the least they were interested in what I was offering about policies and procedures. They were more wanting to know what I had to offer, who I was, you know, what was I willing to stand for, in the sense, and more importantly was to listen to what they have to say. There was so much more that I learned from the constituency members versus what I had to just come and tell them. So it was quite the interesting interaction. I think the most you know, I just would like to share this, is the most, what I enjoyed at door knocking were little children and little dogs. The moment you rang the doorbell, they would just come running to the doors, little kids in their diapers, and they would just open, and they just were keen to know what I was selling. You know, and often at times, it's at this one incident, one little child just asked me, "Oh, can I just come to the party?" And mind you, for them, the party is a birthday party or something, whatever they could understand at the tender age. So it's been the most exciting and exhilarating experience for me, just to go out in the community, to reach out to the members and to listen to their stories, what they have to say.
You've got tremendous experience in healthcare. You've got the advantage of East and West. You are familiar with Western medicine, and you're also familiar with Ayurveda and yoga and all these other herbal practices as well.
Yes.
Tell me about the combination of the two now, that knowledge of yours. How has that helped you in terms of framing in your own mind possibly a better healthcare system in this part of the world?
Excellent question here. I think it's again coming down to culmination of, best things from both sides of the table. So as much as I was trained in Western medicine, I worked as a family physician back in India, and then moving on and getting more skills training with naturopathic medicine, whether it's going back to India or here in Canada or the United States. I think it was just my sense and yearning to learn more, to understand more the different dynamics of healthcare itself, because there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of controversies involved. Was one thing is right, the other isn't. One school of medicine is supporting the other. Alternative medicine is not so good. Conventional medicine is. So there's a lot of conflict embroiling, and people are demanding more and more. So people are becoming aware more and more about what they want for their health. However, having said that, I also feel that there's a fine line between having skilled personnel who have had proper training in several, healing arts area. For myself, what I've learned through all my several pursuits and learning and gaining that knowledge and training, keeping it simple, we are so embroiled with our life and the stresses today, with the pace of life that we've created. And yes, on the one hand, technology has taken humanity to a different level, but at the same time, I think we've lost that normal human connection as well. So my emphasis within all this is bringing back to that attention back to that normal. One of my teachers always says, it's simple to be happy, but it's very difficult to be simple. So simplicity, whether it's how you live your life or your personal health, is the key. There's too much going on at this point in time with us, but I do feel like what we've created for ourselves definitely affects our health as well. So my whole purpose and my whole intention is to educate. Knowledge goes a long way. Rather than me just prescribing, yes, there are certain things that you need to do for a certain concern, but at the same time, I think educating about health and wellness goes a long way for well-being.
That's fantastic. What can people do during the nomination process for you? What is exactly the procedure?
So at this time, in the next coming weeks, we will be having the nomination event. And at that time, people who have bought a membership with the United Conservative Party from the Edmonton-Manning area, they have to be residents of the Edmonton-Manning area, will be able to come out and vote for their chosen candidate. And once they cast their ballot on the day of the nomination event, that's for several hours, it's open, the residents go out and vote. And whoever takes the majority vote is the chosen candidate to represent the United Conservative Party at the provincial elections next year.
We've had several politicians who have come and visited us before they were elected, and they also came back after they became cabinet ministers or even prime minister of this country. We are pretty sure that you would follow the same tradition. One day when you're elected, you'll come back and visit us again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the sentiment and the good wishes. Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Keep up the great work you're doing.
Thank you for having me.